And so last night, as I'm watching Secretariat, it showed the real consequences of following one's passion towards authenticity and really living an authentic life. It showed the good aspects about that and the bad aspects about that. What would you say was the most authentic moment for you in this movie that really speaks towards authenticity?
There are a couple of moments in the movie that speak toward authenticity for me. One is Penny's despair when everything that she's tried has not worked. That she's had a plan, she's isolated, she knows what to do. This woman created methods of financing that nobody had ever done before. A housewife in this male world of wealth, and she figures something out, and she still can't get them to do it, and her heart is broken, and she goes out and sees the groom that stays with Secretariat most of the time washing the horse, and "Oh Happy Day" is on the radio, and it's that moment that breaks in and gives her hope. That struck me as real. It's that time when you do not expect a miracle, and that's when the miracle comes.
That's awesome.
That seemed real to me.
That was really real. Another moment for me in the movie was when Eddie, I think that's his name, walks out to. It was at the Kentucky Derby the morning of, after he finally, his hope was given a second chance when the horse begins to eat. And so he walks out there and has an authentic, almost religious moment alone in the field. Tell us about that.
Well, that moment was spontaneous. I had not planned that in the work that I'd done with the script. It wasn't in the original script that Mike Rich wrote, which is this wonderful blueprint of the story. But there were so many scenes that were shot in a stall, and a stall was not very visual and dramatic and theatrical. And the moment as originally scripted was that Eddie comes in and sees that the horse is eaten, and he feels a moment of encouragement. But we had this gorgeous set of the Kentucky Derby, and the thought, and I had fallen in love with this character, with the purity that he exudes, and the thought of, what does he really feel? What does he want to do? And I thought, he wants to tell the world, and even if no one's listening, the idea that he shouts this out to the world gave me goosebumps.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's an interesting thing, too, Carlos, I think, about this issue of authenticity, is that in some ways we find it when we are in isolation. And in other ways we find it with others.
Yeah, that's great.
One moment for me was, when I think of Penny's isolation, when I think of Eddie's, and even Secretariat's when he's alone in the field, what it's like for him. But then there's that moment when Penny's standing at the ball, and she's looking at her family, and they've come together again. They had all spread out, but now they're reunited. And that was another one of those. I'm struggling for the words, but I think authenticity comes to us as a kind of miracle. Definitely,
definitely. That is a theme that throughout the entire movie, I just kept seeing authentic moments throughout this movie, and it was just breathing authenticity. And so I was excited to ask you that question. I appreciate it. Okay, so I was surprised to learn that you went to seminary for a year, which was really interesting to me. So as I learned that after the movie last night, and so the movie was a very it was a very religious kind of moment for me the entire time. There were all kinds of themes of just huge authentic life God moments for me. Tell me a little bit about what you've taken from that year of seminary and kind of applied to this stage in life where you're, screenwriter and, producing and doing all these things. What have you taken from seminary and applied to this time?
Well, I'll tell you one of the ways I see this, and that's a fabulous question, is I was in tent revivals next to my grandmother listening to her sing Old Rugged Cross. that was seminary too.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Wow.
and all of that time, I mean, I grew up that, that Baptist boy that they tell you should read the Bible every day, and I did and do
Right.
now.
Yeah.
But I think that what I carry with it now is I've been approached at different times about being ordained, even
Right.
because the amount of training that I've had would qualify me in some denominations for ordination.
Yeah.
And my feeling is that my obligations as a Christian are not increased by being ordained and not decreased because I'm not ordained.
Right.
That my
Calling.
my calling
Yeah.
is the same. No matter what title or even group of letters would be put behind my name.
That's
And I think that's what seminary actually gave me. If it may sound like a strange example, but my mother and father were both brilliant people who never got a chance to go to school. They grew up in the Depression. They didn't have the money. And they always thought, if only I could have gone to school.
Right.
Part of the difference was that having gone to school, I understood that it didn't make me different or better.
Yeah.
And that was something that I got from seminary, is that everybody there is searching.
Okay.
Just like everybody who isn't there. And another thing is that they need to be cared for in the same way that they care for others. To me, one of the tragedies of the church is that the people who are out there on the front lines are not supported.
Right.
That we look at them, they're supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be flawless.
Right.
They're supposed to not be people.
Right. Yeah. Superhumans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Which leads me to my next question. I think the people on the front lines. Okay. So the front lines, Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, the people that I get to speak to are the creatives, the video directors, the worship leaders, the musicians. They're on a weekly basis, because Sunday comes every week. They're trying to create a moving experience for people every single Sunday. And as I speak to them, they're discouraged and they need encouragement. And so I look at what you do, and you get to create moving experiences for people. It might not be in a church sanctuary, but it was in the sanctuary of the theater we were in last night.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Speak to them a little bit. Is there a way that I'd love for you to just give some maybe words of encouragement to those people that are on the front lines creating the creatives in the church today that are I think being left behind a little bit as far as encouraging them and things like that. I think to hear from you in what you do to create a moving experience and how you can maybe translate that to what they're doing on Sundays.
First of all, I love these people, and I feel that I'm one of them.
Yeah.
When I was working in the church, that's the role I wanted to have. I wanted to be alive and creative and real, which is what I hear you saying about them and what I've always heard from them.
Yeah.
I think for me, the bit of advice, if I could be so.
Yeah, I would love it.
Is that it's a two-way street with the audience and you. And you need to listen to them. And you need to also not be afraid to speak to them.
That's good.
It's like having, I don't think there's anybody that loves their children more than I love mine. And I have to tell them what I believe is the truth. And I also have to listen to what it is that they're hearing and what they're telling me back. And I see a congregation that way. That when I'll go to church and say the choir is singing something that I don't like, it bothers me. It really bothers me. But I also think, like C.S. Lewis said, if you go to church and you're judging everybody, you're not in church. Right. And so there's a thing of that I, in the congregation, have to be listening and giving my loving feedback, and they have to be feeding back to me. It's like
Yeah.
when I watch this movie
Yeah.
with other people, I pay attention to where are they starting to get it,
Yeah.
and where is it starting to wander? When am
Yeah.
I being too long-winded, like
Yeah.
I'm being right now?
No, this is this is awesome. No, this is amazing. I do believe in the give and take, and in listening to your audience. So many times as creatives, in church, we don't do that. We have all the answers, and so I think that's great advice. I appreciate it. One more question for you. You wrote a couple of the songs that are in there. I'm a songwriter. I get to do that kind of stuff. Tell me a little bit about, compare and contrast the difference in writing a song and writing a screenplay. What are the ways that those things can come together, and what are the differences there?
In this case, it was thought about working on the screenplay and the story of this that inspired me to look at the song, and the song actually helped inspire moments in the movie. It was the sense of, again, it's that dialogue. The wonderful thing about creatives in the church or anywhere is that they are listening to their hearts, but they're in this bounce back.
Right.
It's like you hit that ping pong ball and you don't know where it's going to ricochet. Well, that story started to conjure up for me images of what is this whole story about? What is the victory that Penny feels when she wins? When did that victory happen? And was it the horse might cross the finish line first? But if it's all about that, what has she really won or lost? And that's where that song came from. It's not the prize, it's not the game, it's not the score, it's not the fame.
Wow.
When every road looks way too far, it's not what you have, it's who you are. And
so good.
Didn't know that, Carlos, until
so good.
I was working with this.
So the song comes from the story, and the story comes from the song.
That's right.
That's unbelievable.